Hello, my name's Caroline Sanderson and I'm a writer and a member of ALCS. And it's my great pleasure to be here with the Honorary President of ALCS, the remarkable Maureen Duffy. Maureen, looking back, what are your most abiding memories of the early days of ALCS, some 45 years ago?
Well, the first one really is nobody thought we needed it. Nobody knew what it was. And we had to invent it out of nothing. And so there were two reasons spurring us on. One was that by going to the German Institute, we had discovered that the German Collecting Society, VG Vort, was holding money for UK writers, which it could only pay under its statutes to a sister organisation. And there wasn't one in the UK. And the second one was the huge growth in photocopy meant that there were thousands of uses of writers' work which they could not police or get any return from at all, because it was clearly something that could only be done on a collective basis under contract. So we had two very strong, distinctive reasons for thinking of setting up the first Writers' Collecting Society in the UK. So that was the sort of, I don't know whether you'd call it intellectual or emotional, conception of ALCS.
So you've got those two spurs for the foundation of ALCS, the eventual foundation of ALCS. The fact that there's already money out there that authors can't get their hands on is obviously very tantalising. But there's also the spur, isn't it, that you describe? It feels very prescient. So in those days, you were thinking mainly about photocopying, but that was the sort of start of the sort of, I suppose, the explosion really in the digital age of all the different ways that authors' work can be consumed. So it felt like you really had a hint of the future there. And I know you faced quite a lot of opposition. Did you always believe that you could make a success of it? Because reading back through the history, you were all very determined and you gave up a huge amount of your own time and energy to the cause.
Well, when we looked around Europe, we saw that everybody had got something of the kind, and certainly the Scandinavian countries had. So, we couldn't see any reason why the UK shouldn't have. And as things were developing so fast, technologically, because of, the whole photocopying thing was an absolute explosion. So we could see that although we got PLR, this in a sense was a parallel in that it was people using our work without paying for it, probably. And something had to be done.
And when you think back on your own writing career, and we think ALCS looks after all kinds of writers, and as writers we all have highs and lows in our careers, don't we? There are things that we have to weather, and we have to enjoy our successes. So when you think back on your writing, what have been what you think of as successes, and what have been the most difficult things as a writer?
Keeping going. I've got what I think is my last novel. And because of the writer's life in this country, and maybe in others too, but I don't know of them, it's pretty tough. It's very difficult to get published, to get noticed. The returns, the financial returns, are absolutely negligible.
And do you think things have got worse looking back?
Well, looking back, yes, there is a sense in which they've got worse, because I can remember a time when, if you signed a contract, you were paid a sizable sum of money, which was called in advance. Okay, you had to earn it back by royalties, which was set against it until you'd paid it off. But at least there was a contract.
And you were supported while you were writing, weren't you, as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had an editor who took an interest in your work and your development, took you out to lunch sometimes. That helps, but the whole sort of structure of the industry seemed to have changed so completely in my writing lifetime. And so another reason for finding something to set against it. And this, in a sense, is what ALCS is. It was founded by writers for writers who understand the problems of writers and look out for them all around the world. And that's why it's been able to collect such fantastic sums and pay them out to its members, which is far more than we could ever envisage, really, but only right and proper, because in the old days of Writers' Action Group, we had a sort of motto: no use without payment. And I think this is absolutely what we have imported into the ALCS. And there are now increasingly areas in which individual writers can't collect for themselves, can't engage even by themselves. And so the ALCS has become and was conceived as absolutely necessary to offset this development in publishing in particular, so that wherever work appears, ALCS can make an attempt to get something right.
We know from the testimonies of so many writers when they get their distribution payments just how vital those payments are. And really over those 45 years, I mean, it's remarkable, isn't it? When you were talking earlier about the spur of knowing there was some money in Germany, there were payments due. the spur of that, and now ALCS has paid out some £600 million to writers all over the world. And all those writers have cause to be grateful to ALCS. But I think, as you hinted there, it's also a sense of the support to writers who are often working on their own and need a supportive organisation, isn't it? It's knowing that ALCS is at your back and collecting money that, as you say, you can't get on your hands of, but just that the sense of the collective. And I think the other thing that's, when I read back on the history of ALCS, that I feel like you and your co-founders have achieved is really making us think about writers as professional people. We're not just amateurs who are dabbling in writing, but we're doing a professional job of work. Yes.
Yes.
And I think that's what ALCS also does, isn't it? To professionalise what writers do. So all these things have been achieved in the 45 years since ALCS was founded.
Well, to begin with, nobody really understood that we needed it. So I am absolutely delighted that it's worked.
And what are you most proud of?
I suppose the fact that it exists of the people who set it up. One of them was my own solicitor, who worked for a legal firm, Radcliffe's. He was called Jack Black, and he drew up all the articles of association and registered it as a company limited by guarantee. The things which I couldn't possibly have done. I'm totally outside my experience. But we were helped by all sorts of people.
Yes. We're so clearly such a team effort, and it's such a coming together of determined band of people. And we have great cause. I think all writers have great cause to be grateful to all your efforts and the time that you invested. When you think of ALCS in the future, if we look to the future, 45 years on, what do you hope it'll be doing? How do you?
More of the same.
More of the same.
Absolutely. It must not be undermined.
It's an organisation that's moved with the times and has to move with the times, isn't it?
Yes. It mustn't be undermined. It mustn't be attacked. Well, if it's attacked, it will have to defend itself by people who think that, why should writers get all this money? What do they do? How do they contribute to? Because there is, I'm afraid to say, a certain, I don't know quite how to put it, animosity, a feeling that writers ought to be scribbling away in a cold garret, and shouldn't be. Because, what do they do? I mean, they just scribble away. Anybody can write a letter or, read a book. So, there's nothing special about them.
What we need to do is, and what ALCS does effectively, is campaign so that everybody realises, don't they, that actually they spend their days and a lot of their leisure time consuming the work of writers. That's how important it is. So you open a book, you watch TV, you go to the cinema.
Yes.
It's all about writers. You listen to the radio. So, and that's what I mean about making sure that it's a professional occupation and something that enhances people's lives.
Yes, but there is an unwillingness to admit that by certain sections of the population. And That's why we have to be eternally vigilant and prepared to fight.
Well, I'm lucky enough to be here talking to you this afternoon. So on behalf of all members of ALCS and writers everywhere, thank you, Maureen, for everything that you've done for writers.
Well, it wasn't just me. It was our founders who did it.